These things suck.
Welcome, everyone, to another awesome episode of the Fishing Loons podcast, brought to you by the Average Ontario Anglers. Today, we have a very fun episode. But before we start, I would just like to mention one thing. This show is brought to you by the CanCast Fishing Show, which now includes Muskie Odyssey. March 29th, 2026 is Canada's biggest fishing show, isn't it, Andrew? It's massive.
It's amazing. It's been massive, and it's even bigger.
I would say like double the size.
It's the exact opposite of what you want to hear when you go back to your like semi-annual physical or whatever, and be like, it's even bigger. I'm like, yay!
We're super excited about that. Again, this show is brought to you by CanCast, but it's also brought to you by another local company that we are going to be talking about later in the episode. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Odyssey and CanCast later. But first, we actually have our interesting fishing fact. But wait, you know what I always forget to do, Andrew? I always forget to introduce ourselves. You know, I always just figure a lot of you guys and girls have been listening to us for so long. They're like, yeah, I know it. I know Andrew. I know Jesse. Those guys are crazy. I love those guys. But maybe this is your first time listening to this podcast. Welcome. We are a relatable fishing podcast. We are two poor guys that do not know how to catch big fish. We catch a lot of small fish. Thankfully, over the many years that we've been fishing together and fishing with a lot of experienced anglers, friends, and guides over the years, we have learned a lot, and we share all that information with you guys. But before we get into the educational part of this podcast where we learn stuff, we're going to have an interesting fishing fact, and that is brought to you by our friend Andrew with the giant beard and the baseball cap. He also has a mustache. I just don't want to picture you looking at Andrew with a huge beard, no mustache, and a hat. This is super weird.
It's like a man with just huge lamb chops to the side of his face. So I have a very informative, so sorry if you're waiting to learn later. Class is in session now. Okay, this is an interesting fishing fact that we can all learn from, that I know I can. I'm curious to see Jesse's reaction to some of this information.
Okay.
Because it got me thinking, you know how I'll sometimes be on this little kick where I'm like, I'm eating pasta, nothing but like pasta every day for like 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm done. I want something different now. And I feel like maybe fish go through the same thing. Because some years you're fishing a lake and something produces really, really well. And then the next year, that same bait isn't producing as well. Like, is it because they're used to it? Is all this stuff? So I thought, why do fish change their eating habits? What they're foraging for? So there's a few different reasons. The first one is, we've talked about on this podcast before, is the energy return versus energy spent. So a fish will want the maximum amount of calories for the minimum amount of effort. So they're going to favor prey that has a high fat or protein content, prey that's abundant, that's easy to catch, and that doesn't injure them. So that's what they're mainly going for. So you think of, instead of going for perch or crayfish, oftentimes they'll go for shad or smelt that has low injury risk. There's usually a lot of them in some of these lakes. But fish, they need to feed more often, during different times of the year. But they'll often go to the main thing, the main rule of thumb. They're not thinking themselves, but they're going to go for the thing that's the easiest to catch, the easiest to consume, so as not to cause damage, and the thing that's going to give them the most amount of energy to be able to continue growing and living. That's kind of like the base point that we kind of already knew. The next is forage availability. So different lakes, even if they're next door to each other, they can have different forage bases due to the water depth, the water clarity, temperature profiles, the vegetation. Some may have invasive species, some may not. So for example, in smelt-dominated lakes, there are pelagic bait fish. They're out in schools all around the lake. But sometimes when that smelt population has decreased or the temperatures change too much, those same predators can shift to going for perch, whitefish, cisco, or even start cannibalizing their own species. So that's something else reason why it may change what they're eating. The vulnerability of prey is a third one. So abundance doesn't always mean vulnerable. You could have a lot of something, but if it's covered in spikes and they don't want to eat it, but hey, there's a fair amount of that, but it's really easy to catch. That is a very vulnerable. So you think of injured bait fish, young of the year bait fish, molting crayfish. If you go to a hard-shelled crayfish or one that just released his exoskeleton and is now like a soft little sausage with legs, like, okay, there's no risk to the fish. Spawning fish are oftentimes very tired. There's oftentimes lots of eggs with lots of, protein in that. So those things also change. It's not just what is most plentiful, but what is abundant and also vulnerable. Then we have the fourth thing that can change is seasonal shifts with temperature. Game fish may change what they feed on because of what's available that time of year. Different things may become, again, think of fish spawning in the spring. There's lots of fish eggs, lots of tired fish. As the year goes on, let's say into fall, there may not be spawning populations of fish, but there's all those end of the year bait fish that are around now. That may be very plentiful. So things like that will change throughout the year as the fish decide, even with their metabolism and their own energy, how much they can expend as to what they're going to start eating. They may stop going for pelagic fish and start going for more, or bait fish like out in the opens, things you have to chase, and go to more things that they can just kind of forage on and pick up, maybe, holding to structure and stuff like that. So maybe different species they go to for that reason, because it requires less effort to chase them around. They can just go up and kind of ambush potentially. The other thing that will change, and this is mainly for what kind of prey is out there, is the habitat of the lake. Some things you'll have weedy lakes that you're going to have bluegill, perch, and frogs are oftentimes the main go-to forage for these game fish. Rocky shield lakes, crayfish, think of them in the rocks all over the place. It's pretty obvious. Deep clear lakes without much structure, there's often smelt or cisco. Again, more pelagic. They school up. They're just out in the open. And rivers, there's lots of minnows, suckers, and darters that are commonly found. So that's kind of like a little cheat sheet of what's most likely going to be a prey animal or bait that we want to imitate. Because our goal as fishermen is to match the hatch, right?
We try.
So there's a few other things that can alter it. Competition from other predators may shift certain fish into feeding on things they may not normally do so. If it's just becomes harder for them to get that prey, because let's say something else is beating them to get to that food source. So again, that's some fish which may think of always eating minnows and stuff like that. If all of a sudden we have a bunch more really aggressive pike move into the area, let's say, these other native fish that were there may stop eating as many minnows and whatnot. They may start going to eating invertebrates like bugs, cannibalizing themselves, their own young. And that can affect how the fish are eating and even the long-term ecology of the lake. And the last thing that I was going to talk about is kind of an example. There's a few other small things, but that pretty much sums up a lot of the reasons why the abundancy of prey, the quality of the prey as to how much calories it has, again, if it's going to harm the fish, why it can change. So something that I know that you and I have experienced is we'll go to a lake, like I said, you're fishing it, it's great. You go back the next year, 2 years, 3 years later, and that stuff isn't working. Why? What changed on such a grand scale? I get there's going to be a seasonal shift between what they're eating, but why, oh why, is this, minnow pattern not working anymore in this lake that I grew up fishing this minnow pattern on and it always worked?
Please tell us.
So, some things that can change. For example, here's a test that was found. This is Lake Opiongo, the largest lake in Algonquin Park here in Ontario. And it was a study done on the lake trout diet shift. So, when people think Algonquin Park, lake trout is often one of the most prized game fish that people might think of. So, traditional forage for this lake was the cisco, the lake herring, and other cold water pelagic fish. That was the preferred forage for these lake trout. What changed? Long-term monitoring in Algonquin lakes has documented that there are warmer surface temperatures, stronger and longer thermal stratification, and reduced cold, oxygen-rich deep water habitat. So because of this warmer water, it's essentially reduced the layer of, especially in midsummer, of highly oxygenated water in the preferred temperature that lake trout like to be in. It's gone from being, let's say this deep of 20 feet band across that lake, whereas now, by the end of summer, it's maybe only 10 feet thick or 5 feet thick of that zone that is kind of like a Goldilocks zone for these lake trout and also the cisco. So cisco, they also require cold water, just like the lake trout do, but they also need well oxygenated water, and they're more sensitive to that oxygen level. So the overlap zone between those two fish became so narrow that the lake trout could not effectively feed on cisco anymore. both species still exist in the lake. So you might think there's lots of cisco that's soft-finned, high calorie, it's out in the middle of the lake. That's what these things should be eating. That's what I want to use to try and catch a lake trout. You may have success, but what are they eating now? What changed? So the diet shifted because they used to feed on primarily pelagic cisco. Now they feed on more benthic forage. And I had to look that up because I had no idea what benthic means.
I have no idea either.
Yeah. So it means feeding off things on the bottom.
Oh.
So there are new species or other species of fish, of crayfish, of invertebrates that are down at the bottom of the lake that these lake trout are fine to be swimming in. It's their comfortable zone. And they're now feeding more so on those fish. They also have more feeding on invertebrates, so bugs and stuff like that as they come through the hatch. There's occasional cannibalism, which is not reported in previous times, and alternative prey fish when available. So they're more opportunistic when something comes along. They're not as picky as to, we have plenty of cisco, that's all I'm going to eat. They'll just take an opportunity when it comes. What has happened because of that is they've seen lower growth rates. So because of these changes, yes, the best thing they could be feeding on is cisco. Because the range of where these fish are found in the lake, they couldn't feed in them as effectively. They aren't growing as fast anymore. So the days of these fast-growing, big lake trout may be behind us for these areas. They're eating a broader variety of diet, and they're more reliant on whatever forage remains abundant throughout the year. So they're, like I said, they become much more opportunistic. It's important to think of when we're going to these lakes, there could be winter die-off that can really affect a certain species, even if it's bait fish. Everything trickles down effect, right? So it can be something that may seem inconsequential to us when we first see something happen out in the lake. A really cold winter, really, really hot summer for extended time. That can affect algae blooms and growth, that can affect what invertebrates are feeding on, which can affect how well the spawning population of a certain bait fish did, which may affect what the walleye are feeding on now. And now we can't use the same baits. I'm not going to get into it, but another popular example was walleye in the Bay of Quinte. Same thing happened there. They completely changed their eating habits. Guys weren't catching walleye for a long time, at least not the numbers they thought. And in fact, they thought walleye numbers had just drastically decreased. But due to water clarity and different things, they realized these walleye were just in a different spot. They were all still there, great healthy population of them, but in a completely different location, feeding on different things. So it's something to think of. It's not always just us as being bad anglers or, it's been a bad day or a bad year. It just means that we have to learn a bit more. To change our minds. We can't catch things. I know I'm guilty of it. We can't always catch things on what we want to catch them on. Sometimes you gotta let the fish tell us what they want to eat. I found it interesting. I'm not sure if anyone else did. I was kind of rambled there, but I like stuff like that because it teaches me. I love trying out new baits. And sometimes if you try out new baits, you'll find that new thing that works really well for a lake. And maybe you're the only guy in that lake who knows about that lure right now. So sometimes that can be to your advantage.
That's hilarious. I think it's funny that last episode I did the interesting fishing fact about just some random machine. And in this episode, Andrew actually taught you something valuable that you can use and put in your fishing repertoire to catch more fish.
I think the episode before that, you started talking about candlelit concerts.
One of us has to be entertaining sometimes, Andrew. Thanks, Andrew. No, it's good. The interesting fishing fact, it's always random. And you know what? Me and Andrew being obviously two different people, it's great to get two different perspectives on interesting fishing facts. Like usually with Andrew, you get something more technical, something where you learn something. Andrew's very interested in science, biology, and that kind of stuff. I like listening to it. I don't like researching that stuff. I like coming up with other random stuff. So take your pick. At least it's, every other week we take turns. So every other week you're going to be happy. So again, this episode is brought to you by the CanCast Fishing Show, which again is March 29th. It is an insane show. Like we said, it's huge. There's tons of vendors. And actually the episode that we have coming up in 2 weeks, our next episode, we're actually going to go through a big list of what you can expect to have. And also as a teaser, This month of March, we're actually going to have 3 podcast episodes, which we never do. Usually it's the first and third Sunday of the month. This time it's going to be first and third, but as well, the last Sunday of the month, which is the day of CanCast. In fact, I might even release it on Saturday for all those vendors that are going up the day before to set up so they can listen to it. But I'll keep you guys posted next episode. That's how nice we are. It's our gift to you by doing an extra episode. So I haven't even told you guys what this episode is about. I haven't even told Andrew. Just kidding. He knows.
We do have some news as well, if you want to.
Oh, yeah. Let's do AOA news.
So this is something that I found. I had seen some reports on, heard some news on it recently, and I thought it would be good to mention here. There was a man from St. Thomas, Ontario. He pled guilty to charges related to invasive snakehead fish.
What?
Yeah.
In Ontario.
In Ontario. This is local for us, but this is something that I thought would be good to talk about because snakehead are invasive species down in the States in a couple of different locations, a couple different species. There are a variety of species of snakehead. So this one here, just to give a couple facts about the case, investigators had heard about a tip about live snakehead being sold at an aquatic pet store in Aylmer, Ontario. They followed up in November of 2024, and the store was closed and the fish were moved to the individual's home. Officers seized several live snakehead fish from that residence and at another address. So Ontario's invasive species regulations, it is illegal to import, possess, transport, buy, sell, or release live snakehead fish. Essentially, if it can breathe, move, blink, it's illegal. They can't be here. And it might seem excessive or harsh. This individual, he pleaded guilty to the charges and was fined $95,000 for the illegal possession and handling of these invasive fish.
Wow.
And it sounds like steep, right? Like, it sounds like a lot. But I just didn't want to go too far into all the stuff of the history on snakehead. But for an example, the northern snakehead, which are released, were first confirmed to have a breeding population in 2002 in Crofton in America. They now have established themselves in the Potomac River, Chesapeake Bay watershed, parts of Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, and Arkansas. They have a huge range now. And once they get into river systems, you essentially cannot get rid of them. Like, you can travel too far. Even with ponds, though, they tried to treat that pond, and they found that some of these fish were in other local ponds because snakehead can travel on land themselves. So somewhat short distances, longer than you may think, but somewhat short distances. I don't have the information directly here to say how far. But the reasons why it can be harsh is they can survive winters. So they can survive like a lake being frozen over and stuff. They're a top level predator. So they put a lot of pressure on the other game fish that are around. They restructure the whole food web. Another reason why they're so dangerous to be released, have live potential for them to be in the wild. If there's a breeding population, unlike, like, for example, in bass spawn, the bass will guard, the male will guard the nest, the bed, I should say, and then he may guard some of the fry for a short time, and then he, skedaddles, and the fry are left on their own. Snakehead, both parents stick around, and they actively protect the fry, the juveniles, as they grow. So the success rate is way higher than other predatory species. So once they start breeding, their numbers can skyrocket pretty quick. And like I said, they're very versatile. They can go across land. They can, if they're in the river system, they're going to be all over the river system pretty soon. So that's why it's a big danger. Thankfully, these were, there's no evidence that these were released into the wild. So that's good. But that's just one species. There's down in Florida, the bullseye snakehead, a different species of snakehead, again, has been thoroughly, taken over a lot of the water down there as well. So I'm glad that they caught this guy, something to be taken seriously. So if you see any live snakehead around, be sure to report it to M&R. If you see it being sold in the store, report it to police. But yeah, that was kind of a bit scary to hear that was already taking place, or that they were being sold live here in Ontario, because they could easily destroy an ecosystem or will affect it for sure.
They definitely, I know Andrew has wanted to go snakehead fishing for a long time. Yeah. They look like a cool fish to catch.
They're a cool fish. Nothing against the species itself. It just doesn't belong here.
Yeah. The last piece of AOA news that we have, if you're interested, send me a message, send us an email, send me a direct message on social media. I'll send you the entry forms. We are having our second annual Pike Challenge, the pike tournament that is brought to you by Waterwolf Lures and Average Ontario Anglers. It's the Chandos Lake Pike Challenge. More than half of the slots or the teams are already full. I'm not going to go through all the information. If you want more information, let us know. We'll tell you. The entry fees are very reasonable for a tournament, and the payouts are legit.
It's 100% payout, right? So everything that we're chipping in, that whoever is going and participating, all of the money that comes in is going to be given out as prize money. So that's cool. It's not like it's, there for someone to make profit on. It's there for the anglers to make profit on.
Exactly. So it's team format, teams of 2. It's a catch, measure, and photo catch and release tournament. The top 3 biggest pike that you catch of the day. And then there's also prizes for the 3 longest pike as well. Again, it's brought to you by Waterwolf Lures. Mike and Mary do a lot of work to get this tournament up and running. And me and Andrew are there helping out the day of. Hopefully trying to catch some fish. We had an absolute blast last year. You meet a lot of people. There's lots of absolute weapons, guys and girls there that just absolutely know how to catch pike like crazy. You don't hear about a lot of pike tournaments. It's not as popular as bass tournaments, but it is really fun. And if it's your first time fishing a tournament or wanting to fish a tournament, it's a cool tournament to get into tournament fishing because it's very chill. You don't see Andrew there just, hitting you with a ruler if you do anything bad. So if you have any questions about that, let us know and we will get that information for you. Now, this episode, finally, we're going to tell you like half an hour in what the episode is about. You're waiting this whole time. You don't know. Could be anything. This episode is all about propaganda.
Other podcasts suck. Listen to AOA only.
Yeah. They're lying to you. This episode is about not falling for fishing propaganda, so to say. There's lots of things that I feel I don't want to do, and I know Andrew doesn't want to do, but you personally should not fall for any of these things in 2026. Now, I know it's March, so you may have already fell for some of these already. I apologize for not bringing this out earlier, but we're going to go through a bunch of things that you should avoid like the plague. Absolutely. And the first one is definitely not snakehead, because if I see one, I'm going to try to catch it 100%. So we're going to kind of go through some of these and we're going to tell you each one and why you should avoid it. We're not just going to tell you bad things and then log off. That would be pretty, that'd be mean. We're going to tell you stuff. So the first one I thought that we'd cover is these are things that you should 100% avoid is the tackle shop impulse cabin fever buys. How many times, Andrew? I know we've talked about this before, and we're going to later in this episode, we're going to talk about some of the tackle we bought recently. So we are not innocent at all, right, Andrew?
I thoroughly enjoy going to a tackle shop and being like, what is the store going to tell me to buy today?
Absolutely. And that's the main thing. Exactly what you said. You don't know what you're going to buy when you go in there. You're just going in there to spend some money, right? Mm-hmm. Why are you doing that? Especially in the winter. If you're not someone that ice fishes a lot, it's probably been a few months or maybe many months since you've actually gone fishing. There may be many months since you actually literally needed to buy something. Like, when you go to the store and you're like, oh, I'm going fishing tomorrow. I need to buy a pack of, tube jig heads or a pack of Senkos, something. You need that thing for the next trip. Oftentimes when you buy stuff in the winter or like early spring or something, it's not because you need anything.
Okay, to be fair, we talked about it on an earlier episode, but about a month ago we went to Gagnon's and you and I bought topwater frogs.
Yeah, I know. The guy looked at us and I was like, these are good for ice fishing, right? Oh, man. But it's bad, because what happens is you have to think the fishing industry generally, they're not all nice. Like you think, oh, these tackle companies, they love me. Their job is to make money. So all this new stuff coming out, do you need it, Andrew, at all?
I know I should say no.
So here's what happens. Every year, every single year, you look at, fishing magazines, podcasts, YouTube, all this new stuff comes out every single year. It seems like every year there's like a new bait or a new lure that comes out and it's the latest craze. You need this. You need to get this. Oh, it's a new version of this bait. And we're dumb. As anglers, we're really dumb. We literally instantly think that we need that thing. Now, the thing that I find, and this is why I say you should avoid this like the plague. You don't need this stuff. Money's burning a hole in your pocket. Save that for later.
Save it for CanCast.
Yeah, save it for CanCast and Muskie Odyssey. You'll be happy you did. Also, all this information we're telling you about not buying tackle, this does not apply to CanCast. That is the exception.
That's your cheat day.
Yeah. It's like, when you're on a diet, you get cheat day. You can have like all the food you want for one meal. CanCast is your cheat day for fishing.
Yes.
But what happens is I was going to say to Andrew, like, how many baits legit, when you go like, say we're going bass fishing, like how many baits do you literally use in a day? Like generally, like if say we're fishing a lake, we know the spots, to catch fish at.
I might go through 3 different topwater frogs and some flipping baits. Like I could get away with a 360 tackle box and use only half of it.
Yeah.
If it's a lake I don't know, I might go through lure selections and try maybe, 1 tray's worth of lures if I'm really trying to get through all of them. But really, I'm going to find like 1 or 2 that work. I'm just casting those rest of the day.
Yeah, 100%. When I go sometimes, there's this one stretch that I fish. It's like a river. It's lily pads, it's slop. It's largemouth fishing, so obviously you don't need a lot. But I can literally have 2 rods rigged up, one with a frog on it and one with a flipping bait on it. That's all I need. And I literally bring a whole tackle box. It's like, I don't use any of the other stuff. It's just like rattling around in the boat.
Something good to stand on. Get the extra height for flipping.
So all that extra stuff that you buy in the winter, generally you don't need it. Let's be fair. Like generally you don't need it. It basically will satisfy your urge to buy something, which we all have. We all like have shopping therapy, right? It makes us feel better, but it doesn't actually help you at all in catching fish because a lot of the stuff that you buy, generally you don't use. Like I have lures that I bought years ago that are still in the package. I haven't used it. It just rattles around on my computer desk here. But I think we're doing really good, Andrew, the last few years, like last year especially. We've put a lot of stuff back, picked it up and we're like, dude, I should buy this. Walk around the store with it. And then we put it back like 5 minutes later. And we're good people. We put it back on the same peg that we got it from. We're not just like leaving it on the top of the shelf somewhere. Anyway.
Not just putting it in the worm fridge. Like, I don't need this.
It's like a full raincoat. I'm like, Andrew,
I've changed my mind about these waders. I'm going to leave them in the discount bin so someone else thinks they're $3.
So the next point, the things that you should definitely not do in 2026 is chasing the professional setup. Now, I'm guilty of this 100%. We watch all the videos on YouTube. We watch all the guys. Like I was just watching a video the other day with Jeff Gustafson, Bassmaster, elite angler. Yep. And he's up on Lake of the Woods or something, and he's fishing Ned rigs for smallmouth, and he's legit using a $2,000 combo. He's like, oh, I'm using an NRX Plus and a Shimano Stella. It's like, dude, that rod is $900 and the reel is $1,000. Like, again, he's a professional angler. He can use whatever he wants. He's sponsored by them. Like, obviously, if I was a pro, I'd want to use the best too. But I feel like a lot of this media you watch, it makes you feel like you need a very expensive combo or else you won't feel bites, Dude, $150 rod is very sensitive.
Yeah.
I'm not comparing it to a $900 rod, but if you can't feel bites on a $150 rod and braided line with a leader, you need to, get your hands replaced.
Here's the thing to think about with, again, chasing the pro setup, using someone like Jeff Gustafson or any, professional angler as an illustration. If you think for a second that they're good because they're using high quality gear, take a little smack to the head and like should have had a V8 kind of smack to your forehead and just think, if you swapped gear with them, who would win in a tournament? I guarantee it's still them using your Zebco reel and ugly stick, and they will outfish you. I guarantee it. Being able to catch fish and catch good fish and be able to present things, you can have slight or minor advantages for using higher stuff. There is an advantage. Is it a be all end all? Absolutely not. You can still try, with pretty much any graphite rod out there, you can try drop shotting with it. That's any light action, medium light. I guarantee you can drop shot with it effectively.
Absolutely.
Will you feel more bites with that NRX? Maybe. But honestly, you're not going to, if you're going to have a fun time on the weekend using just a budget rod to be able to do that same thing, and you will catch fish.
Yeah. I always think of the example, there's a comedian, I forget his name, but he was saying that he was testing out beds or something. And he's like, oh, you want to test out this super awesome cushion, like pillow top bed? And he lies in it. He's like, oh, great. Now my bed's going to feel like a piece of crap from now on. And it's the same with fishing gear. You will get spoiled instantly. If you use a high-end rod, everything else will feel like trash after that. So do yourself a favor. Don't get sucked into that. Be happy with the gear that you have. And if you're a tackle junkie, that's different. If you like spending money on high-end gear and that's your hobby, that's great. But don't for a second feel that you need that. And I'll tell you, for example, I'm guilty. I don't have super, super high-end rods. But for instance, float fishing, I used to do a lot of float fishing. I had a lot of cheap float rods over the years. Cheap ones, mid-price ones. Then I ended up buying a G Loomis GLX float rod, which is like $1,000 now. It's the lightest float rod I've ever used. It's super light. It's a pleasure to fish. I caught a lot of fish on it. I also caught a lot of fish on my $99 float rod. Still have it. Still works great. You don't need a high-end rod. And also, I was afraid to use that all the time. I was afraid to snag it in a tree. I was afraid to go through bushes. I was afraid to like fight fish under bridges because I thought that the line would snap and my rod would shatter on the concrete. When I use a cheaper combo that's still good, I'm fine. I fish it like I stole it. Like, I don't care. So, yeah, absolutely. So one thing I would say too is when it comes to gear, we talked about this a bit in our last episode when we reviewed those old fishing books. Gear now in the $100 to $150 price point is light years ahead of gear from 30, 40 years ago. Even high-end gear 30, 40 years ago. So you can buy a really nice rod or a really nice reel now for a reasonable price. And we always talk about this rod. Me and Andrew have them. The Daiwa XT rods, the Tatula XT rods, the black ones, they're $120. The Daiwa Canadian custom rods are $120. Like those, for instance, are ones that we've been using. They're nice. They're sensitive. Yeah. They're light. They're amazing. Is it nicer to use higher end rods? Absolutely it is. It's fun. But we catch fish all the time on like $100, $120 rods. And look at us. Here we are catching fish sometimes.
And it's been a while since we kind of talked about it on the podcast too, but with anything you buy pretty much in the market, no matter what hobby you have, but fishing especially, and we're talking about rods and reels, there's a threshold where a more expensive doesn't always mean better. Like generally, yes, it's better, but by how much, right?
Yeah.
And so if you go from extreme budget, like your Canadian Tire combo or something, like if that's what you can afford and that gets you on the water, go for it. Absolutely not bashing you at all. But if you can afford to go and get like $100 rod and a $90 spinning reel, and you spend like $200 in a combo, you're going to be really happy with that. Like that difference between those two is going to be noticeable for pretty much every single angler out there. Once you're at that $200 range, before you really notice, like you might be like, oh, this feels a bit crisper. It's light. It could feel a bit lighter, but like really, you're not going to pick it up and think, I could do so much more with this. When you pick up the $500 rod and the $700 reel, and you're like, you're maybe getting 10, 15, 20% better. It's not like you're paying 300% more, to get that slight advantage still. Yeah. So there's that sweet middle ground. The budget stuff that's out now, the stuff that's $150 now, is stuff that we would have, killed for 20 years ago. It is really, really well made. And that kind of price point, if you can stay in that, you're going to be happy. You're going to have good gear that you can be pleased with and do well with.
Yeah. And I'd say rod wise, if you're bass walleye, for instance, I'm just going to use Daiwa as an example because I like Daiwa and I buy a lot of Daiwa rods, but $120, I'd say like that's the entry level of a nice rod. Like they sell rods that are less than that, yes. But once you get to that $120, you have the Tatula XT, you have the Canadian Custom, spend a few extra bucks. They have the walleye series, like $150. Those are nice rods. Once you jump up to $200 and get to the Tatula and the Tatula Elite, those are like a little nicer and just like nice. But after that, it's like you said, it's not that much better once you start spending $400 or $500, in our opinion. Anyway, I always say this to people when I worked at the tackle shop: fish don't know what you're holding in your hands. Only you do. So if you like having high-end tackle and that's your thing, go for it. If not, don't worry. The fish don't know. Why don't you go over our next point here, Andrew?
Yeah, this is one of those.
I'm guilty.
Yeah, I think we're all guilty of it. And I'm sure our listeners, they've heard us talk about things like, we talk about the chatterbait, and everyone went and bought chatterbaits. And some people come back and they're like, these are great. We've had a few people come back like, these things suck.
So many people will message us and be like, I've never caught a fish on a chatterbait. I used it for the whole cottage trip. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. You suck. Just kidding.
So sometimes we'll hear of the latest craze, the new technique, and it's the only thing that's working. You have to get this. Like the most recent one I would think of is the dice, right? When the dice came out and people, it was being used in the tournament series for a while. And once it came out that this is what people were using and you could buy like a couple different brands, and there's a bunch of brands that have it. And everyone's thinking, I'm not going to catch any more bass on my cottage lake this year unless I'm casting the dice bait now. Or it has to be like a specific, it has to be a specific color or something. Like if it's not this purple chartreuse wormy dermy, like you're not going to catch anything on it. but it's different. The people that you see fishing tournaments, for one, it's probably a different lake than your home lake. And like we talked about in the interesting fishing fact, they probably eat different things.
Yeah,
so it may not be what they're keyed in on feeding on, but they're set up to sell baits. These tournaments, when they not the tournament itself, but these brands, they're sponsoring these guys that they use their baits, they do these things, and sometimes it is a really cool new presentation and bait. And their goal, though, is to sell as many of them as they can. When these big booms come in, they're like, that's what we need to push. But it doesn't mean that you have to then go and now I have to get the dice bait rod and then a dice bait reel and use a special dice bait line and then do all. You don't need to worry about that. If you want to try the dice baits, buy some dice baits and cast it on your spinning reel.
That's a good point, because I guarantee at the next big fishing show, maybe in the next year or two, there's going to be a dice bait rod. Guarantee.
Yeah.
It's going to be so stupid. It's going to say like 4 dice baits on it.
It's like you don't necessarily have to change your whole tackle box and way of fishing to do what one guy or a few people are captaining well on in a tournament for you to be able to continue to have success on a local lake that you perhaps already know how to fish pretty well.
That's the thing, though. And that's why you should avoid this propaganda, because whatever new bait, like dice baits, they're great baits. We're going to talk more about that later. But whatever bait is coming out as new, so to say new, nothing's really new. It'll make it sound like you need this bait. Like Andrew said, you need this bait or else you will not be catching fish. Or do you want to be on the edge? You want to win that next tournament? You want to show off to your buddies? It's all clever marketing. And then it gets to the point too where, you know what? To cast this bait effectively, you need this kind of rod that we happen to sell. And by the way, put this reel on because it balances it better. And we happen to sell that too. It's all marketing.
What have you fallen for, Jesse? What's the technique that you were like, okay, I need to do this?
I'll say the dice bait thing. Like when gimmicky stuff comes out, I know you're like, Andrew likes weird stuff. I don't think Andrew is tricked by the weird stuff. He just likes weird stuff, so he buys it. But usually the gimmicky stuff that comes out is weird stuff. So he ends up buying it anyway. And then when it works, I'm like, okay.
I bought dice baits before you did.
Oh yeah. Because the thing is like, dice baits for me, I see why they work. I see how they work. But it wasn't something that I generally would use in my everyday fishing because I mostly fish shallow largemouth lakes. And dice baits generally are for smallmouth in clearer water, which is something I don't do as much. But now that we have your boat, I was like, okay, we're probably going to fish areas where I could use them and drop shot them and stuff like that. So I did buy some. But yeah, I'd say the dice bait thing for sure. If I'm drop shotting a dice bait, am I going to catch any more fish than if I'm drop shotting my regular drop shot bait? Maybe, probably not.
It's more up to the fish at that point than anything.
I like to have a few options. I don't want to have so many options, but I like to have a few options. And I like to see, because we like fishing. We like trying fishing stuff. And we'll post on our Instagram too, and we'll talk about it on the podcast. Stuff that just didn't work for us or stuff that really worked for us. Like when we talk about something, we're not sponsored. We're like, oh, we're sponsored by the dice bait company. Like, no, we're not. if we're catching fish on the dice bait, we'll tell you, yeah, you should buy some of these. Or guess what? These are a waste of money. Like, dude, they're like $14 for 3 little cubes. Like, Anyway, another thing that I'd add into this topic here is limited edition colors. Again, I think a lot of times these are bought by like people that collect baits. Like people collect lots of things. I collect fishing lures. So some people collect hockey cards. Some people collect limited edition Megabass jerk baits. So you always see like the limited edition baits. It's like, oh, we're only doing one run of these Megabass poppers and it's in like a weird color. It's like, it could even be like an artistic pattern. It has nothing to do with fish. Some of them, I know me and Andrew at Gagnon's the other day and we picked up these poppers, Megabass, and it was like the sockeye salmon color with the olive head and the red body. I'm like, that's cool, but I guarantee that's not going to catch any more fish than a white popper or a black popper. You know what I mean? It looks cool. It may give you more confidence, but generally speaking, a lot of times when you buy these limited edition baits, they're expensive. They're hard to find and they're not going to catch any more fish. If you're looking to collect them, go for it. Collect whatever you want.
Go for the special edition Coors Banquet Rattlin' Wrap. Like, okay, go for it.
Dude, that's a sick bait.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't need no limited edition baits. Like speaking about colors, the next quick point we're going to go over too is you don't need 20 colors. Don't buy into the propaganda that you need like every color. When I got into fishing, when I was really young, I started buying just like random stuff. When I started getting more seriously into bass fishing, I would have so many colors of soft plastics. I'd be like, oh, you never know. I need green pumpkin. I need this. I need green pumpkin with blue flake. I need green pumpkin with black flake just in case. Dude, it doesn't matter. I've watched so many videos where you have these guys like Greg Hackney or like Denny Brower, like these classic angler, like bass anglers from the States from back in the day. And they're like flipping and pitching for bass. You need 2 colors, black and blue and green pumpkin. They're like, don't worry about anything else. Like, how many times do you think you're fishing with a green pumpkin bait when you're not catching fish, and then you put on a green pumpkin bait with like purple fleck in it and the fish are just attacking it after that? Like, no, like maybe once in a blue moon, but I feel like get your presentation down pat. And if the fish aren't hitting that, maybe you're using the wrong type of bait. The fish are not that finicky generally. I feel like that's also what the media makes us think. Like, think logically. The media, fishing media is like, or the brands are like, hey, fish are super picky. You need all these colors, which we happen to sell. You don't need that. Like, I do pretty well largemouth fishing. I basically only use green pumpkin because I'm watching what other professional guys are using that aren't sponsored by brands. They're like, I just use green pumpkin. Remember when we talked to Chris Tosco and he's like, that's green pumpkin. That's it. Like, why would you use anything else?
And another thing too is it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have like, or that you can't have any difference of colors. There may be days where you're fishing and a green pumpkin isn't working, but in time something that's more contrast, like let's put on bright white, and all of a sudden they're hitting it.
Yeah.
And it may be something like that. But again, having those like minute differences and having like, oh, this is like slightly different. Oh, they added an extra stripe onto the back of this one. Like, that stuff doesn't really have as big of a deal. If you're making a big change with a color, that can have an impact. And I just want to make sure that's a clear point. Because sometimes like we'll fish topwater and like we'll find like they're not hitting black frogs, but then we try in a white frog.
Boom.
And I have natural colored frogs. That's the 3 colored frogs I ever buy.
Yep.
And like I want to find out what colors work in that day, and that's the color frog we use the rest of the day.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I don't have, like, this is the Middle Eastern leopard frog, and now this is the northern variant of the leopard frog, and this is the like.
Agreed. Yeah. And again, it depends what you're fishing for. Like, say you're walleye fishing, it may be different. Like when we're pike fishing, a lot of the lures I use are white. Mm-hmm. Or bright colors, because pike are visual feeders like fire tiger, white. Those work really good. I'm not saying using like a silver is a bad idea. Silver can be good too. So like have a bunch of basic colors that generally work well, and that's all you need. When you're bass fishing for largemouth, again, you have green pumpkin, you have a dark color like black, and then like I've done very well in white too. Something bright, right? So dark, bright, natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of how I go with all fishing lures, is bright, dark, natural. Even musky fishing, a lot of black lures, some bright lures like white or fire tiger, and then natural lures like a walleye pattern. And that pretty much covers you for everything. You don't have to have like 50,000 lures. Like, it's funny actually, now that I look back at my musky well and I'm like, pretty much everything is perch color. Perch and walleye and black. I love it. But I got sucked into that so bad. Just buying so many random baits. Mm-hmm. It's like, dude, just focus on fishing that bait better. A fish is not going to nitpick small differences in bait colors. Now, if you fish gin clear water and super high pressured water, that might be a bit different. So then you can get a bit finicky. But for most fishing, for the average angler, I don't think you're going to notice a difference most of the time. Our next point is one that I could definitely rant on forever, but I'm not going to.
You want me to go into that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, online reviews. Jesse likes to do his research into things and not nitpick, but select what he wants to use, what he wants to buy. Jesse does a lot of research, and even, for example, he's been, wanting to get another boat or kayak or something. And the amount of times, and as this is full, honest, open communication with me and the listeners now. Jesse, you're no part of this. All right. The amount of times that Jesse has told me, oh, I'm thinking of this brand, this has this, it can do this, it can support this many pounds of weight, I can put my motor on here. I'm like, excellent. That sounds great. Sounds like it fits all your purposes. Right. And literally the next week, he's like, yeah, I decided against that. I'm going to go to this one. I can do this. I can do this. It gets great reviews, does over here. And I can put it on here. Perfect. Okay, great. And literally a week later, it's another thing. Like Jesse wants to make sure that when he does buy once, cry once. That is his motto. But he keeps changing his mind on something, like with fishing, with what boat he wants to fish out of or get next. So there's an example where the more research you do into something as well can start to skew. And if you start finding some reviews, some things may be great, but all of a sudden you get onto this one site where maybe they're bashing a certain product, and like all these people, they seem to hate it, and like, oh, that means I'm never going to buy that. And then you don't buy it. Turns out maybe that works really well for you. Maybe all those guys are down in, fishing salt flats down for redfish, and that's why they don't like that casting platform. It's like, okay, but they say the other one is better because it has a ladder on the front deck. It's like, yes, but I live in a Great Shield Lake and I'm trolling for salmon. Like like all those different things. So you can't always, like, online reviews are good. They can be very beneficial, but you can find some trusted sources. You have, like us, me and Jesse, like we already talked about, we're pretty honest with whatever we discuss and we tell you. We're not sponsored by people to say things. It's our honest thoughts on it. Maybe you'll agree with us. Maybe you won't. Maybe something will work for you like it worked for us. Maybe it won't. But you can find, if you can focus on real world use and experience and reviews rather than just product reviews from certain companies or sponsored individuals that may have a skewed interest or invested interest in saying one thing or the other, you can't always, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. But so yeah, just be cautious when you're going around checking out online reviews. But speaking of which, we love to get reviews in the podcast, and we'd love to get a 5-star.
Non-sponsored. Yeah. And just to like go into like that as well about not trusting everything you see online. Again, the fishing industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. I'm talking about just the bass fishing industry alone. I'm not talking about like commercial fishing. The bass fishing industry in the States is a multi-billion-dollar industry. They make tons of money by selling you stuff that you generally don't need. Like, fair enough, right? Like, we know if we go bass fishing, we could probably have a pack of Senkos, a chatterbait, and a topwater frog and catch fish. Bunch of jigs. You don't need all this other random stuff. And people that you watch online, they're promoting a product. That's their job. They get paid by a company to promote their stuff so that you will buy it, so that company will make money, obviously. So I think it's always funny when a new product comes out and all of a sudden all the pros are talking about that. It's like, oh, it's the best thing. Oh, it's the best thing, Or it's like, oh, you know what the best chatterbait rod is? And it's like, it happens to be the one that the company that they work for makes. And then it's always funny when they switch sponsorships like every year and they're like, oh, now this is the best chatterbait rod. And it's a different brand all of a sudden. I'm like, I thought you said that one was the best,
And then you look at what's actually in a rod locker and it's a completely different brand altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. Or for instance, a lot of people, like a lot of pros will be sponsored by certain brands. I'm not going to like say specific pros that I've heard, but like I'm talking big, like Bassmaster Classic winning pros that are like, hey, I'm really good at jerkbait fishing and I'm sponsored by this brand and this jerkbait is the one I use. But people get telephoto lenses and take pictures of them using a Megabass 110. It's like, that's not the brand you're using, but they're hiding it because they know that specific jerkbait is the best. The one that their brand is, that they're sponsored to promote, the one that they use on their fishing shows or whatever, videos they make is not the same one they're using in tournaments because they know money's on the line. So take everything with a grain of salt. Trust people that actually catch fish. Trust guides. Trust people that aren't sponsored as much. Just because you're sponsored doesn't mean you're going to be dishonest, but generally you're getting paid to promote a product. So there you go. Be cautious as what you buy. Because remember, the fishing industry is designed to make you spend money. They don't really care if you catch fish. So before we get into our next point, I thought we could have on a special guest. So as we mentioned, this episode is brought to you by the CanCast Fishing Show and Muskie Odyssey. Now, we always talk about CanCast, but now that Muskie Odyssey is thrown in there, we're really excited for that. We actually have on some guests. They are coming to Muskie Odyssey, and we're really excited to talk to them. So check this out. So Andrew, what event do we have coming up that we're super excited about?
Well, there's two technically. It's CanCast, but also the Muskie Odyssey.
Ooh, that sounds like pretty epic. Muskie Odyssey. The damage that it did to my wallet last year was pretty barbaric. I'm not going to lie. We actually have. I know I always promise you guys the best guests of all time. Bob Azumi was busy this time, maybe in the future. But we actually have on a local brand. We always like supporting the local guys. Like, yay, local guys, right? We're going to talk a little bit about Muskie Odyssey because we usually talk about CanCast. So we're going to give the CanCast thing a little bit of a break. So Muskie Odyssey, we have a new up-and-coming musky lure brand made right here in Ontario. And if you didn't know, come on, this is Ontario podcast. We got to support the Ontario people. Right now we have on the podcast with us to interview awkwardly Aaron and Roberto from Ramarack Lures. How's it going, guys?
Good. How are you?
Super good that you guys are here because now me and Andrew don't have to do much of the talking. Love it. So we have some questions for you guys. But first of all, why don't you just introduce yourself? How long have you guys been fishing for? And what is your brand all about?
So I've been fishing basically my whole life. I grew up going to my family cottage up in near Huntsville on Lake of Bays, going after bass and pike. And then, what was it, 3 years ago? We committed to muskie. Decided to go insane and say we want to spend more time catching less. And here we are.
I get that. I've unfortunately done the same thing the last few years. It is an insane thing to do. So you guys make a bunch of lures. Now, again, we always put the links below in the show notes. So I'm going to put the link below in the show notes for these guys' Instagram account. They make some really cool lures. A lot of people that make lures are like, hey, can we be on the podcast? I'm like, no, your lures aren't cool enough. But these guys, they pass the vibe test because their lures look really cool. So what makes your musky lures different than, say, stuff that I could pick up off the shelf at a local tackle shop?
So we specifically designed our lures to be able to be really versatile in a lot of different situations. As we were talking about just before we went live, is the amount of money you have to spend to be able to cover each category of fishing lures. Like we have a dive and rise, but there's modifications you can make to it to add a tail if you want to make it like a big rubber. We have a twist in weight system so it can go deeper, it can go more shallow, whatever is needed for the job. If it's late November, you want to go jigging, you can use it for the jigging. And then we have a more shallow crankbait with aluminum lips and a really big deep trolling one that's going to be debuted at the Odyssey.
I think I saw a video of that on Instagram. That thing is a big boy. How big is that thing?
The body's 18 inches. It's not that big. It's how you use it. So the body's 18 inches from the front of the lip to once we throw the little twister tail on the back, it's like 29 and a half, give or take. So it's pretty big, but like it thumps. It's going to be a hard lure to miss.
So a medium heavy musky rod is perfect. Start trolling that.
I'd start with an ice rod. But that's just me.
That's awesome.
Those hand winding crowds is going to love it.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Throw it on a tip up and away you go.
I know most of the people listen to this podcast as an audio version. So definitely check out these guys' Instagram accounts. You can see that lure. It's absolutely gigantic. Like, I guarantee it'll catch fish. Like, I remember watching a Doug Wagner video on YouTube, and they were trying to catch a muskie on Lake of the Woods with a big giant crankbait, and it was similar size. It was giant, and they actually caught a fish on it. So you always see like those big pike and stuff, and they attack like massive walleye at the side of the boat.
Or you see fish following in something that you caught a 24-inch walleye, and you see a fish coming in taking a look at it. I don't think that fish is going to turn away at an 18-inch crankbait.
Absolutely. What do they say, Andrew? The muskie can eat something, a third of its size or something?
1/3 of their length is what they can eat, yeah. You want to target 50 pluses? That's what you need. And you still can't keep the 40 inches off your line.
That thing would provide more fight just reeling it in than the average muskie that I catch.
It's funny, that's kind of the comment we always get is, so what kind of rod do I need to get to use that? And we're like, I don't know.
It hasn't been invented yet.
Yep, sorry.
Speaking about your lures, do you guys have some of your lures, like you already grabbed that big one, but I know you mentioned the dive and rise on a crankbait.
So here we have our dive and rise. It's called the Reckon. And you can see that it has the weight slot there for interchanging the weights. You can put the tail mod on the back.
Is that rattles in the bait or rattles in that handle?
No, that's rattles in the bait.
That's noisy.
Awesome.
I like it.
I want it.
That's awesome. And those paint jobs, they look legit. You guys are getting good.
It's been a bit of a balance between the simpler patterns like ball liquor, which no one says no to, or like your straight jet blacks or your simple whites with some chartreuse, some orange. It's tough to get away from those, but like, I don't know, you look at some stuff like this and it's like, how can I not sit here and try to paint stuff like this? It's so fun being able to create the simplest of patterns and the most complex and anything in between. And
And you guys obviously are very creative and artistic, because how many of us have tried to make a fishing lure in our garage or in our workshop and failed epically? These guys are doing it and they know how to paint. I mean, like, it takes a special kind of person to be able to do that, because let's just say I made lures. They would pretty much be broomsticks painted jet black. That's all you'd get. I'd be like, it's a walk the dog bait. But it would have really good hooks on it. I'll tell you that. But it wouldn't be wired through. So like, I don't know what would happen. Just, No, those look absolutely awesome. And the thing about your baits, when I first saw your page you started posting, is they're very unique baits. Like dive and rises and crankbaits, obviously not new segments of lures. They've been around for a long time. But the style of baits that you guys make in those segments are unique. They're not something that's just like a cookie cutter, like, oh, it's a knockoff Suic. It looks exactly like a Suic, except we, put this little divot in the front. Like, no, that's a chunky big boy bait I'm looking at right there.
A very unique outline.
Every part of it, whether it's the width, whether it's the placement of the weight slots, everything is by design. Everything's thought out. The weights are placed in it so that it sits a certain way in the water at rest. It's weighted so the amount of epoxy that we have to put on it, it still just floats and will just rise back up with the hooks on it. But then you put 1 ounce of weight in the belly and now it's a neutral jerk bait. And like, there's been a lot of thought that goes into it because we want you to buy 1 or 2 and be able to use that thing just about anywhere.
You know, we talked about that last year in the podcast. Remember, Andrew, we were talking about buying like a dive and rise with a weight kit in it because of the versatility of it. So you can buy one bait and, you know, yeah, like you said, you can get it to rise fast over weeds, or you can put a lot of weight on it and fish it deep. I like that you can just get one bait and do multiple things with it. And then you got multiple like different tails you can put on a twister tail, you can put on a blade, all that stuff.
But it's funny you were saying about all that weight, because so when we were at Muskie Brawl there, I was throwing a wreck in there and I had a 5 ounce weight that I just poured the weekend before in my garage because I was like, we're going to be on the Detroit River. They're going to be deep, and I just want to throw this paddle tail swim bait that is going to be as deep as I can get it. So I poured this 5 ounce. It's like this tall. Looks ridiculous, but
it's like a shot glass.
I just super glued the thing in there. I'm like, this is my lure all weekend. So
the nice thing with our weight system too is there's no tools required. You don't need a screwdriver. You don't need pliers. They're all hand twist.
That's awesome, because every time I actually had this little mini screwdriver, and then Andrew stole it. I still don't know where it is.
Lies. He doesn't know where it is because it's not in my boat.
That's okay. So here's a question for you guys. What is harder, catching muskies or making muskie lures?
catching muskies.
Yeah.
Didn't have to think too long about that one. Put it this way. So I had about the toughest year I've ever had last year. All year, didn't get a single fish. We fish how many hours, do you think?
I don't even want to count.
Quite a few hours. Take it from me, making baits is easier than catching fish.
But that's why we kind of designed our baits to be fun to cast and reel back in. So if you're having a bad day on the water, at least it's fun to play with the lures.
Yeah. You're not just casting like a suic. I always say to Andrew, an unweighted suic is like casting a popsicle stick. I'm like, this is terrible.
It's a really light 2x4.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's saying a lot that it's easier to make lures, because making lures is pretty hard. That just tells you how hard it is to catch muskie for the average guy.
Oh, yeah.
Look at all these guys on YouTube and they're slamming them all the time. Poop to those guys. The average guy, it's hard to catch muskie. Or at least it is for me. Andrew just pulls them out of his bum. Like
We don't want to talk
50
about
inches, no problem.
I go fishing less days and somehow end up with more on the tally at the end of the year.
So here's a question for you guys about Muskie Odyssey. So again, like Andrew said, CanCast and Muskie Odyssey, one ticket gets you to both shows. So CanCast and Muskie Odyssey, and there's going to be buses, free buses that run back and forth. So if you want to go back and forth, do it. You want to check out CanCast, then go, say you don't even muskie fish, jump on the bus, look around Muskie Odyssey. I guarantee you'll find something interesting to look at least. And you can, check out these guys' lures too. They're
maybe you want a lure because you want to target giant bass. Check out some muskie lures. Like the amount of big bass and walleye we've caught on muskie lures as incidental catches. If that's what you want to target, hey, maybe look into those too.
Do it up. So concerning Muskie Odyssey, which you guys are going to be at, we're really excited for you. I know we were talking before we hit record that, you're getting all your setup and your posters and everything. That's exciting, right? But what are you guys most excited for being a vendor at Muskie Odyssey in 2026?
Probably most looking forward to meeting all the people in real life that we've met online. There's a ton of people that support us to the max. There's a ton of people we support. There's people that have never seen our lures in person, but they believe in them. And it'd be nice to meet them in person, shake a few hands, talk to the community about muskie preservation, safe muskie handling, and just see everyone else's work. I mean, every vendor there has insane lures. Their creativity is, everyone you're going to see there is top notch.
You can walk around there for legit hours. And like me and Andrew, spend way too much money. I'm not even that good at muskie fishing. I buy so many, look at all the stupid lures that don't have any teeth marks in them. No, we're definitely going to be at the show. Obviously, we're going to be walking around, taking pics and stuff, but we are going to be going back and forth. We're going to get 20,000 steps in. It's going to be amazing.
You're going to see something new every time you pass by as well.
Absolutely.
That's what we noticed at the last Odyssey is we were doing laps around and something will catch our eye and be like, how did I not see that last time? But there's so much to look at and take in that, you do have to take your time, do a couple trips, go back and forth between CanCast, Odyssey, and whatnot.
Absolutely. And every time you see me leave and come back, one dive and rise is going to disappear from your table. All right. So let's talk very quickly about a giveaway. So this is actually the first giveaway we've had on this podcast this year. We did a whole whack of giveaways in the last few years. Winter's kind of a slow time, but at CanCast time, everyone wants to do giveaways because lots of cool stuff is coming out. So you guys have generously donated some lures. Now, to be fair, they wanted to give away a lot of lures. So we're probably going to do another giveaway with them in the future. So stay tuned for that. But we're going to give away, well, we're not going to give away. You guys are going to give away 2 sets of 2 lures, which is insane. So one is a dive and rise, and the other one is a crankbait, right? Not that giant crankbait.
God, no.
That thing looks so cool.
2 of the Raptures. It has 2 different pole settings, a little bit deeper, a little bit more shallow. You want to debut the lips? Do you want to?
It's a secret.
We have a surprise we were going to show at Odyssey, but I mean, nothing better than right now.
Oh, for sure. Exclusive. It's going to be the clickbait on this video. Exclusive reveal. Lips.
So all lures are going to have the engraved, anything with a lip is going to have the name of the lure engraved right on it.
That's cool.
And it's going to be a cool feature.
That's super cool.
That's really cool, man.
Very custom. Whoa! Is that a frying pan?
That's so huge.
So yeah, this one is for our 20-inch jointed crankbait that, those are more limited numbers. That's not something we want to pump out all the
They
time.
take a long time to make. Don't order any, please.
Okay. It's bigger than the fish I catch. No worries. I won't order one. So that's super awesome. We appreciate it so much. And again, how do you enter the giveaways? Well, we do all of our giveaways on Patreon. You can be a free member on Patreon because we legally have to do all the giveaways. Everyone has to be able to do them. So make sure you jump on our Patreon. We're going to announce the giveaway there. They're giving away 2 sets of lures. That's absolutely amazing. And remember, comment on the posts that you want to be entered for the giveaway because we want someone that actually musky fishes to win this giveaway. Let's try to get this giveaway into someone's hands, 2 people's hands that actually musky fish. And then, you know what you can do? You can catch a giant muskie and then say, thanks, guys. That was awesome.
And if you get a chance too, when you're at the show and you are walking by the different booths and stuff, anyone that we've talked about, especially Ramarack, you see them at the booth at Muskie Odyssey, stop by, say hi. They want to talk to you. You're going to want to talk to them. These guys have awesome stuff. You're going to want to see what they have and let them know, hey, I saw you on the AOA podcast, the Fishing Loons. Then they'll know, oh, this guy's weird, but okay, we'll entertain him for a while.
Yeah, for sure. If you buy anything, or if you talk to anyone, make sure you mention that you heard on the podcast because that makes people feel all happy, especially me. Not so much Andrew. So, see, you guys were all nervous about being on a podcast. That was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to warn you guys about swearing at all. You're just kind, lure-making gentlemen.
The highest standard.
So anyway, we're going to get back to the rest of the episode now. So thanks, guys, for coming in. So before we end quick, how can people find Ramarack Lures?
You can find us on Instagram at Ramarack Lures. You can find us on Facebook. We have a page and a group, both Ramarack Lures. And be sure to follow. We're going to have a few posts up that if you show us our post at the Odyssey and that you're following us, we'll give you a discount on anything you buy. But we have a website, but we're still working on it a little. It's gotten a little bit in neglect since we opened it. We're going to get that up to speed.
Sounds good. And again, I'll link everything in the show notes so you can just easily swipe down and check out all that stuff. So thanks again, guys, for coming on.
Thank you, Robin.
We will see you at Odyssey. I was going to say CanCast. You guys won't be at CanCast. You'll be at Odyssey. We'll see you guys there, okay?
See ya.
All right, bye. That was pretty cool. What do you think?
I like those guys.
I'm excited.
I was about to say, I'm excited to see those baits in person.
Yeah, especially that giant one. Holy smoke. Did you see that? That lure was like the size of like a trophy walleye.
It's like the kind of thing that I would expect to see just hanging from the ceiling in a tackle shop. I'm like, that's just a promotional visual. That's not the actual, no, you fish this.
That's absolutely amazing. And that giveaway is pretty sick. They're giving away 4 lures, like 2 to each person that wins. So make sure you, again, make sure you go on our Patreon and enter that, because those lures are, you know how much money lures cost, but musky lures are really expensive, and handcrafted lures. Yeah. That look pretty cool. I'm excited. I'm going to get one myself, and I think I'm going to get the Dive and Rise one. I'm a big Dive and Rise guy.
That looks really good.
Yeah. Dude, it's March and I'm like, when's musky season opening?
Boy, I can't wait till September.
No, June, man, June. All right, we have a few more points. We're going to cover these quick because we're going a bit over time. All right, so this is another thing that you should avoid like the plague. This is not really propaganda, but you should avoid this like the plague. And it's not about buying gear and getting sucked into that, but it's about treating every fishing trip like a tournament. Now, I know if you're seriously into fishing, for a lot of people, fishing is about relaxing. It's about getting out in the great outdoors. It's about enjoying time with family and friends. But for some people, they like getting competitive with it. They treat it really seriously. You know, like they're up the night before, putting all their hooks in their box, tying FG knots, making sure everything's legit ready, packing their car. They're up at the crack of dawn. They get to the lake, and it's all like, everything's planned out. I'm going to hit this spot, this spot, this spot, have all these plans. And what happens is performance anxiety and burnout. It can get bad. Like every trip that you have, you don't want to be in like a full out, like zoned in all the time. You need, again, that is cool. Me and Andrew do that all the time because I like just destroying him in fishing, which happens sometimes. But sometimes you need to have a mental health fishing day. I know Andrew's really big into that. I know sometimes he's like, I just needed to get out, right? Yeah. And I'm just in the back of the boat, just slamming fish. I'm like, I didn't need to come
And then
out.
I get all upset. And I'm like, oh, this is making it worse. But like, it's a good point too, because we're not fishing tournaments every single day. And so when we constantly put the pressure on ourselves to be like, oh, I need to make sure I catch my new PB today, or I need to make sure that I can, outperform what I did last. And we're trying to, have competition, even if it's just with ourselves. It's okay for healthy competition, but if it's putting you under stress and you get off the water at the end of the day and think that, oh, that just sucked because I didn't beat my PB. Like, did you catch fish? Did you have a good time though? Like, if you can't enjoy your time because you're trying to improve upon your own self, it loses its effectiveness of actually being a nice day on the water.
Absolutely. There's been very few days that I can remember where I was like, that was a complete, utter disaster and waste of time. Like even days when I've got completely skunked, something cool will happen. I'll see a big fish. Or one time I didn't catch any fish, but I was floating down this river and there was a cow. But remember all those cows? Yeah. It's like all these cows just coming and they were like wading into the river drinking, and we like floated right past them and they were just like, just like
we're waiting for them to like fart and just blow but like a big cow patty right into the canoe. It's like, we're too close.
I was like, this is cool. Hopefully we can catch a fish. But some days you need low pressure days, and low pressure, like the pressure not to like, accomplish something crazy. You need some low pressure days where your goal is exploring new spots. We always have our spots that we like to go on, like, we got to hit this spot, and then go back to that spot and fish this spot at a certain time. No, just have a day where you have no expectations. Like, let's find some new spots. Maybe it's like, we have this one lake that we fish all the time. We have spots, 100% we have spots we're going to go to. But sometimes I'll have like a day, usually like once a year, where I'm like, I'm just going to fish the other side of the lake. I've never fished there for more than like an hour. And sometimes you'll catch a giant. Actually, 2 years ago, I went to this lake, fished across the lake, and it was just crap. I was like, oh man, no wonder we don't fish over here. But I ended up catching a really nice largemouth on a chatterbait. And I was like, okay. And then I went back to that spot the next year and I caught fish there too. So I found a new spot, which is great because now, that relaxing day where I was kind of just, wandering around enjoying myself, I actually did accomplish something. I did find a new spot. That's amazing. Another thing too is relax. Take it easy. Be chill. Like sometimes you don't want to be like, you know what? I don't want to fish a lure that takes a lot of effort today. I know sometimes we're musky fishing and you're chucking this big rubber and you're just ripping the rod in. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to reel in a swim bait today. That's it. I don't want a lure that pulls a lot, like that big Ramarack crankbait. Like that lip on that is like a frying pan.
I think that's
a trolling lure
bait.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to take it easy and just have fun with it, right? And another one thing that you can do is have a nice meal. I like to do one thing a week that I can look forward to. Life isn't generally exciting for most people, but every week I like to plan one thing that I'm looking forward to. And you can do that too in a fishing trip. You could be like, you know what, I'm going to fish today. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to float down the river. I'm going to fish the side of the lake. I'm just going to pal around. I'm going to have some nice, like buy some nice drinks and stuff that are nice and cold. And then have like a really nice lunch ready or a really nice dinner, like something that you're like, oh, I can't wait to sink my teeth into that. You know, you got like some ribs or something, you know, stop on the shore, heat it up, you know, make some coffee, be like, you know, I'm really looking forward to that. And then just being outside, getting some sun. It's absolutely amazing. Like it's starting to get lighter now, but we go through this like seasonal depression, right? In the winter. And it just gets to the point when you're like, I just need to be outside. And I'm really excited for everyone, for all of us to be out fishing again when there's actual sunlight. It's going to be amazing. I'm so excited.
Like kind of going hand in hand with, you know, the pressure of, like I said, making a tournament, but also like, even if you're just like a super avid angler, like come, you know, rain or shine, I'm going to be out there doing it. Like there's a balance to be had too. Cause if you're putting yourself in danger because of, you know, lightning storm, is it worthwhile to be out there? Maybe the fishing starts to turn on, but like all of a sudden you start seeing those like lightning strikes and you're in an aluminum boat and the tallest thing within a kilometer of shore. Like, maybe not the best idea. But you think of something that, you know, we're looking forward to the warm weather and stuff, but like dehydration is something that can very easily creep up on you.
Yeah.
Another danger where, you know, you're out in the water, you're out doing stuff, but you can start to go crazy and you're going to have a wicked headache. You're going to have some pain. You're going to probably get a sunburn because you're going to, you know, you're out in the sun getting heat stroke. I've had it. I've seen people get hospitalized for it. So it's not, you know, something to be taken lightly. Like Jesse said, if you can prepare well so that you can enjoy your time on the water, have a nice packed lunch, have something to look forward to getting home, like a nice dinner at the campsite or something like that. But having good hydration on the boat is huge. And even in the winter, like want something warm, like we love making coffee. We'll even just pull off even into a calm bay or something like that. Now they have a bigger boat and we'll just like brew up a pot of coffee right on the boat.
It's amazing.
Like,
I love it.
It's really nice. Like it's not just thermos coffee, fresh brewed, pour over coffee.
The simple things in life.
Yeah. Or we'll stop, like we're fishing, you know, backcountry, but we'll bring like the coffee little stove, the heater stove, right?
Yeah.
And little coffee pot and stuff and the pour over. And we'll be fishing in a canoe. And then we'll just like, hey, let's go on. Instead of having like shore lunch, we'll have shore coffee breaks. And we'll just like go on shore,
stretch
take
your
a bathroom
legs,
break, make some coffee. It's so good.
Yeah.
So being able to enjoy that, but it also has the added benefit of if you can stay, you know, well fed and, you know, with a good amount of water hydration, you're going to be saving a lot of stress and bad physical side effects of being out there.
And it helps you like refocus. So like I've had days where, you know, you fish from sunrise to sunset in the summer. You're fishing like legit 14, 15 hour days. And at the end, you're even as much water, you're dehydrated, you're tired. You've been up since 3 a.m. You're exhausted. You go home the next day and sleep till 3 p.m. the next day and you feel like crap.
I'm really glad I feel like garbage after my day off.
Yeah, unless you caught a PB, that's not going to be good. But even just on a normal fishing day, having that little time where you actually just be like, listen, the fishing is slow right now. We're going to take a break. We're going to stop. We're going to have some coffee. We're going to sit for half an hour. Some people are like, no, we got to pound through and use that half an hour. We might catch a fish. It's like, yeah, that time.
We'll take it and discuss where we want to go. Like, we're like, hey, let's take this half hour. We'll have our break.
Refocus.
We talk about, okay, what didn't work this morning? What do we think might be happening? Let's re-examine what we found so far in the water. Where have we seen any action? Where have we seen bait fish? Where's the wind blowing now? And we'll see if, like, hey, let's get a new game plan because our first one isn't working. But taking a break during that time to do that instead of like just continuing to slog through on the first original game plan, hoping to make that work.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's Jesse and I will take that break and then like, you know what, let's go to, it may be one of those days where we try a new lake, knowing that it's not a good thing or a new section of the lake, knowing that this isn't a great fishing day. It is different than what we're used to on this body of water. But let's at least just see what the other areas are like. What's the rock condition there? What other weeds are going there? What kind of shoreline is over here that we haven't seen before? And sometimes on the way, we'll start to see, hey, we pass over a shoal and now we're seeing a bunch of bait fish. Now our game plan is, hey, let's do that. But in the meantime, we're just, taking it easy. We don't even have our lines in the water sometimes. And we're able to, like I said, refocus and reevaluate what we're doing. But take that break.
And it's hard though. It's really hard to do that because oftentimes like we forget to eat, we forget to drink because we're so focused on fishing. You're a serious angler. You're going to be like, I'm focused. I'm just going to fish this shoreline. Then I'll stop. And then you keep going, oh, there's another spot. And you keep going up and it just never ends. So you really have to, I always remind Andrew to drink water. He reminds me to eat food. Remind yourself to take a short break when you're fishing. If you're shore fishing, if you're kayak fishing, if you're in a boat, take a short break, go on shore or stay in the boat, anchor, chill. All right. Our last one, because this podcast is going a bit over time today, but that's totally fine. You should forget this propaganda immediately. The propaganda is catch and release only, a moral absolute. Like, again, we're serious anglers, I would say, Andrew. And it depends where you live. If you live up north, eating fish is 100% normal, 100% normal. But if you live kind of down in the city, it's kind of frowned upon, which is sad because fishing is about catching fish. The original purpose of fishing was to catch fish to eat. We do enjoy fish, but especially when you live in the city and you're fishing in a lot of like city areas that aren't necessarily super clean, catch and release becomes kind of like a way of life for most anglers. Now, we will occasionally keep some fish like steelhead that come up from the lake and the creeks. But generally speaking, if we're fishing around down here, we're not keeping a lot of fish. And generally, a lot of bass fishing, it's kind of like frowned upon to keep bass, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'd never eat a bass. I would never do that to a bass. There's a lot of people that are 100% against it. And they make it sound like you're a bad person if you keep fish because, you know, we're supposed to protect that class of fish or do this or that. But that's based on nothing. That's not based on actual facts. The facts are we can keep fish. The government, I'm not saying they're doing the best job at it, but the government does have scientists and biologists out there that look at the lakes and be like, okay, what harvest can come out of this lake? Now, are those numbers exactly accurate? Probably not, but there are a lot of fish in a lot of the lakes.
Yeah.
Now, we're not saying to keep every fish you catch. We're not saying that.
But you make a good point too. Like there is the fisheries management, and their purpose is like that's why you have fishing regulations saying your limit is here. There are exceptions for some small lakes, but just a little caveat, something to keep in mind is most of the fishing regulations are not lake specific. So in a certain zone, let's take zone 17, which includes the Kawartha Lakes, you're allowed to keep X amount of bass. Okay, great. And you're fishing or walleye or whatever, and you're fishing some of these lakes, and you do so, and you keep your possession limit, and that lake can support that. But in that same zone, you could go fish a pond in your backyard that happens to have bass in it, let's say, and you go and you catch 5 bass, and you keep those 5 bass, and every week you eat those bass, you go and you catch 5 more. Guess how long that pond's going to be able to support that? Not even the year. Like, so there's things, the regulations are there as kind of a general rule of thumb, but not every body of water is exactly like has its own limits, right, in the regulations. So there's something as well, just to keep in mind for your own thinking, keep in mind how you're affecting each area that you're fishing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we used to fish this one pond. It was full of big bass, 3, 4s, even 5 pounders we caught over there. It was kind of a pond that no one fished because it was in the middle of nowhere. And then the next year we went back, a bunch of people must have found it because we found a bunch of fishing garbage, like plastic bait, plastics and stuff like that around. And people started fishing it. And I'm assuming people started keeping fish because we found a bunch of like filleted fish with the head still there, big 4-pound largemouth, stuff like that, spawners. And then we went back the next year and we caught almost nothing.
Yeah. The biggest bass is like a 1/4 pound. Like,
yeah, it got eaten out by a bunch of people. People that are like, oh, there's plenty of fish in here. It's like, yeah, but like Andrew said, if you keep a bunch of fish every time you go, a small pond is quickly going to get fished out. But one reason too that, especially when you're speaking of bass, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you shouldn't keep bass. We eat bass when we're camping up north. Sometimes we can't catch walleye and we're like, we're going to have a fish fry. And these lakes are legit choked with bass. And this is one reason, if a lake gets overpopulated with bass and there's too much competition, it basically stunts the growth of those bass. So a lot of places they'll manage bass populations with regular selective harvest. And it actually improves long-term trophy potential. So in the States, they'll have a lot of these ponds. They'll go out and they'll keep a bunch of like 1 and 2 pounders. And everyone's like, wow, you shouldn't be eating all those bass. And they'll keep like full, huge stringers of them. They don't want the fish to get stunted. They want the fish that don't get caught to have more food to be able to eat, less competition, and those fish eventually get bigger. There's this one lake that me and Andrew fish, and it is full of legit 1.5 to 2 pound bass, like full of them. You can catch literally dozens of them in a trip easily, and they're dumb. If you went, and that lake does not have a 3.5 pounder in that lake is huge. There used to be bigger fish in there. And I feel like because more people used to keep fish back in the day. My dad has pictures of this lake. They were catching 5 and 6 pound largemouth in there almost every year. 6 pounders, like legit big, huge largemouth. And people would keep fish all the time to eat them. So did my dad. And there was big fish in the lake. Now no one really keeps fish out of that lake. Not that I see. It's usually just catch and release. And all the fish are stunted and small. They have big heads and small bodies. And I'm like, we got to start eating some of these poor fish. Just imagine flaying that fish, battering it up and eating it and just crying. I'm doing the right thing.
If you did want to, and just something else to think about, when they have these like fish culls and stuff like that, it's a specific slot size that they'll try and keep. And Jesse and I, again, self-impose that what we do for our own slot size for certain fish is what we want to keep. But the reason why keeping some fish can be of use for the whole ecosystem is a 5-pound bass is going after the same bait fish that those 1 and 2 pound bass are going after. Whereas the 1/4 pound bass aren't big enough yet to eat that bait fish. So you could have a whole bunch of small bass, small fry and stuff like that, young ones, and they can eat invertebrates and all that stuff. That's no worries. But if you can eliminate the amount of bass as a whole who are going after the larger bait fish, so now there's a smaller number of them feeding, they can more easily get that bait fish. They can grow up to those larger sizes. And that's why ideally you don't want to keep the larger fish when possible, because those are the big spawners. They lay the most eggs, so there's the highest chance of reproduction for the lake. But also the big ones are the ones you want to continue getting bigger. So if you keep that kind of mid-range size, that's the preferred way to, ethically source or keep your fish. And again, by all means, they're delicious.
Yeah, exactly. And that applies to a lot of different species of fish too. So we are going to actually eat a lot more fish this year. I think we have a whole bunch of that catch and cook powder stuff.
Yeah.
I think this year we're going to do a bunch of pike trips where we go and catch a bunch of pike. And the Kawarthas, pike are open year round because they're kind of an invasive species in the Kawarthas. So you can we like to catch them because some of the lakes they're musky lakes and the pike are moving in. I'm more than happy to go and keep my full limit of pike because they're not supposed to be there. They're competing with the bass and the muskie that are supposed to be there. I'll have no problem catching them, letting Andrew fillet them, and then eating them myself. All right. So we have one quick segment, and it's going to be super quick because we went extra on this podcast. Remember a few weeks ago when we had a segment where I said, this is some of the lures that we bought since the last time we recorded, and I got to talk about a bait. I talked about those weedless frogs. Now I'm going to let Andrew do one because Andrew also buys a lot of baits. He fell for the propaganda.
Yep.
So what bait did you buy recently?
In late January, I decided to go out.
Wow.
And I bought this small little jerkbait.
Wow.
This is the Megabass GH64 humpback. And it's from a BFS, stuff like that. BFS setup and whatnot, or Americanized BFS, because this has a fair heft to it for weights. It's going to cast really well. It's kind of like gold shiner color. But do you know what the GH stands for on this? Great Hunting Humpback. And you know how much I love hunting action on baits. So hopefully this one, I've heard really good things about this thing. But yeah, it's the Megabass GH64 humpback. Nice size. They have smaller ones. They have really small ones. I kind of still want to get one of those too. But this, I felt like this is a perfect morsel size of like a bait fish that a smallmouth would just crush.
It looks like a fancy Countdown Rapala.
Yeah. Like the Countdown Elite kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited to use this. I have been getting more and more bougie things, but less so like the rods and the reels, more so like baits.
Yeah, again. And that's a lure I know you'll use all the time. Everyone's like, oh, I would never spend this much money or that much money on a bait. But I'm like, if it's a lure that you use all the time, spend the money on it. It's better to have one good lure that you're going to use all the time than like 6 or 7 lures that cost more than that one lure that just sit in your box and do nothing. That's a cool lure. I thought you said it's called the Great Hunting Humpback and you like that because Andrew likes hunting humpback whales. I'm like, I think that's illegal.
Called me Ishmael.
I'm just going to sneak one in quick because we were talking about dice baits. So I actually got some of these X-Zone Stealth Finesse series. This is the GBO. These just came out. These are designed by Joey T and Joey D. Those two awesome smallmouth guys. I actually just listened to a whole podcast on Smalley Talk where they talked about the design of these baits. Again, it's a dice bait. It's a little cube of plastic with a bunch of, squiggly legs coming out of it. There are reasons why fish eat these.
That's more of a pyramid shape.
Yes, that's in the design. They designed it like that. So you can adjust the fall rate, which is pretty cool. They're just very buggy. And I was actually saying to Andrew, like, I want to try these for different species. Like everyone's thinking, oh, smallmouth. I'm like, I almost guarantee these would crush like legit crappie Or imagine fishing this under a float for steelhead.
Big crappie would totally, steelhead.
Yeah, that'd be that's a bucket list catch for me, is catching a steelhead under on a center pin on a fuzzy bait. I'm gonna get like a black one. Yeah, I'm gonna try it. But that's one bait I'm looking to try out. I like X Zone baits. It's a Canadian brand. Great stuff. Saw those at Gagnon's. They have a bunch in there too. So anyway, we're going to end this super long podcast. We would like to thank again the CanCast Fishing Show. Again, if you have not got your tickets yet, the links are all down in the bio. You can get your tickets ahead because they do have giveaways a few weeks before the shows. And if you have your ticket first, the odds of winning those giveaways is better because the more people that buy tickets, your chances go down. So get your tickets quick. Yeah. And make sure you check out Ramarack Lures at Odyssey when you're at CanCast. Definitely say hi to us. We're going to be going kind of between shows. So if you see us at Muskie Odyssey, we'll meet you at the Ramarack Lure booth. You can watch as I steal a bunch of lures from them.
You can be our associates and start distracting them while we do a little shopping spree.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to end this episode with, as tradition states, we have the quote of the week. And to handle that, we have the man. Andrew.
Nice. I figured it would just be classic because I feel like we've been very hypocritical this episode of things that we do. We're telling them, don't do this. So classic dad form, do as I say, not as I do.